everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Andy. I hope you're doing really well wherever or whenever in the world that you are. Today I'm going to be talking about my 2023 reading and channel goals. Before we get into the goals themselves, I just want to say that this video is mostly just for me, something for me to reflect back on, check in on throughout the year. So if you're curious about what my goals are, please feel free to stick around. And if you're not, you're welcome to skip this one. It might be a little dry. All right, let's start with my channel goals. Now, I'm not creating any goals around like how many subscribers I have or how many arcs I get or like anything like that, because I just feel like so much of that is kind of out of my control. So I want to keep my channel goals grounded in things that I can control, that I can do or not do. So my first goal is that I want to try to stick to 6 videos a month. Ideally, the schedule being every Monday and some Thursdays. I think that kind of is what's working for me right now. But I think 6 is a good number because for me, two videos a week is feeling like a lot, but 1 video a week isn't feeling like quite enough. So I felt like 6 is kind of a good happy medium. Also in these 6 videos I want to post per month, I'd like to put at least 1 bullet journal or 1 reading journal out per month. So you'll always, hopefully always, see the plan with me or like the setup the next month with me. And then if I feel inspired by something else or I do like a mid-month check-in, hopefully you'll get to see some of that reading journal, bullet journal content too. My next channel related goal is that I would like to increase my reading vlogs. I feel like I've only done maybe 2 or 3 and they're fun to film. So I would like to hold myself accountable to doing at least 1 reading vlog per month. And I think for me, I'm thinking that that can be part of a 24-hour reading vlog, a 48-hour, an entire week. I think I want to give myself the flexibility to play around with that, but I would just in general like to try and get at least 1 reading vlog up per month. And let me know in the comments down below, do you prefer themed reading vlogs? Like I read 5 fantasy romances, or I read this author's books, or are you more of the, oh, I like to read kind of like the race, like, oh, let's see how many books I can read in 48 hours. All right, let's see how many books I can read in 24 hours. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts because I don't know, I like doing both. So I'd be curious to hear what you guys prefer. My last channel related goal is very broad, but I'd like to increase my consistency with my presence on Instagram and maybe TikTok. TikTok I find a little overwhelming. I'm not super great with creating short form content or reels. And so I might have to grow into that a little bit, like learn how to make better TikToks. But yeah, I would like to at least make a conscious effort throughout the year to be more active, to be more present on those 2 other social media platforms. Into reading goals. My first reading goal is that I would like to read 12 nonfiction books, ideally spread out like 1 per month. In 2022, I read 8 nonfiction books, but I did only read memoir style nonfiction. So I would like to, I'd like to maybe read 4 nonfiction, like more informational texts, and then the other 8 being memoirs, because I do love a memoir. They're so engaging and interesting and unique. I struggle a little bit with just like quintessential nonfiction because I often find it a bit drier. And I read a lot of that kind of stuff for my work. So I struggle a little bit with that, but I don't want to discount it. So I'd like to hold myself accountable to reading 12 nonfiction books this year with the ratio of being maybe 8 memoirs to 4 kind of informational nonfiction texts spread out 1 per month. We'll see. Another reading goal of mine is that I would like to DNF more this year. Last year, I forced myself to read a lot of duds, like a lot of 1 or 2 star books. And so I'm trying to help myself DNF. I mean, it's hard for me. The completionist in me really struggles with this. And especially because I have come across a few books that I got to the end and I was really glad that I like pushed through. But now that I've reading more consistently over the last few years, I do have a better sense of what my taste is. Kind of right away, I have a better idea of what authors, what writing styles, what types of stories are gonna be for me. And so I'd like to be a little kinder to myself, help avoid some reading slumps by DNFing a few more books. I think last year I DNF'd only 5 books. So this year, I'd like to be able to DNF 8. If I can at least DNF 8 books, I think that will set me up for better success than it did last year. My next goal is around series. I have a very ambitious playlist of series, if you will. I think a more realistic goal for me is going to be to complete, and that could mean start this year, finish this year, or complete series that I've already started, or catch up. I'd like to get to and finish 8 series this year. I don't really care which fantasy series they are, but I would like to take a big old chunk out of my kind of series TBR and get to a good amount this year. So 8 is the gold number for me. Before we get to my last goal, I do just want to say, I know a lot of people like to include a diversity related goal. I think for me, it's always a priority for me to read diversely, read from authors who have lived different experiences than me. That's always kind of been a priority. So I don't actually feel the need to create a goal around it necessarily. It's just something that as I'm picking up books, as I'm curious and learning about new authors, it's just something I always kind of keep at the forefront of my mind. So I don't have a specific goal, a number statistic goal around it, but just know that it is something I'm very conscious of throughout the years, just making sure I read from people different from me. My last goal is that I would like to read a little more outside my comfort zone. I read predominantly fantasy, romance, and literary fiction, but I did come across quite a few books this year that were outside of those 3 genres that I really, really enjoyed. And so it's making me feel more hopeful, and I'm feeling encouraged to pick up some stuff outside my comfort zone that maybe I wouldn't automatically, I don't know, it's not already on my TBR. The first genre is around horror. I literally only read 2 horror books last year. One was Cirque Berserk, which if you watched my end of year content, you saw that was such a pleasant surprise and one of my favorite reads from last year. And so it's made me more open to picking up horror books. So if you have any horror recommendations, leave those in the comments down below. But I read 2 in 2022. So I think for 2023, I'd like to read at least 5. Nothing crazy, not a huge step, but just more than I did last year. The next category is mystery. Last year I read 13 mystery books. Now I think 8 of them were the Veronica Speedwell mystery books. So I didn't want to shoot too high because what if I don't find a series like that? So I think I would like in 2023 to read at least 10 mystery books. Again, if you have recommendations, it's not a genre I read often, so I am really looking for a good place to start. The next genre I don't read often is sci-fi, which some people might find interesting or maybe a little unexpected because I do read a lot of fantasy. But to me, sci-fi is not always my jam, while fantasy is almost always my jam. I didn't read any science fiction books last year. So if I can pick up at least 3 this year in 2023, that will be a win. The last genre for this little section is I'd like to read more historical fiction. I've always been a bit reluctant to pick up historical fiction, and I don't really know what that is about. I read 5 in 2022, and I really, really enjoyed almost all of them. And so I'd like for this year in 2023, I'd like to get to at least 10. And if the historical fiction has a little romance or has a little fantastical element on the side, that's gonna be great. So again, if you have any recommendations, leave them down below. All right, I know this video was kind of short and sweet and to the point, but I did just want to capture what I'm hoping my 2023 reading is gonna look like, what my uploading schedule is gonna look like. I know I'm a little late, it's like mid-January when I'm posting this, but it took me a little while to like reflect on all my stats from last year and think about what's important to me as a reader moving into this year. So better late than never. Here it is, it's out in the world. I'm gonna hold myself accountable, hopefully do a little mid-year check-in to see what progress I'm making. And yeah, if you made it to the end, go ahead and leave like a little check mark emoji, or feel free to leave any of your reading goals down below. Maybe that'll help inspire me as I read throughout the year to try something new for myself. That's it. I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll see you in the next video soon. Bye.